So with everything going on with the Zelda series right now, having a movie coming out and having spin-offs alongside the mainline titles, as well as, the classic top-down 2D titles and things of that nature, the Zelda series has a lot of room to change, to evolve beyond where it's currently at. And Nintendo have never been shy about evolution, right, in terms of the Zelda series. It's always been looking to evolve. It might have had segments, like eras where it felt like it was a little stagnant. Specifically, a lot of people felt that way about Wind Waker to Skyward Sword, that trilogy of Zelda, which happened to be some of my favorite games of all time, if not my favorite games of all time, did get a lot of scrutiny for being considered just too samey. They didn't stretch too far away from Ocarina of Time. But where they did change a lot, absolutely without question, is in terms of art direction. And that's what I specifically want to talk about today is the art style of Zelda games. No matter how much you might think the games mechanically were too samey, the art direction was never that, like, ushered in that feeling of playing the same game over and over again. Zelda games are very well known for their ability to change their art direction and make you feel like you're playing something entirely new, because it completely changes the tone while still feeling like Zelda, right? I've always kind of compared them to Ghibli films in that department, because Ghibli always feels like Ghibli, but there's no way you're going to watch Princess Mononoke and then My Neighbor Totoro back to back and say that they're the same film. So Zelda games are sort of like that, and a lot of how they are able to do that is in terms of changing up the art style. I got into this series pretty much at the perfect time, where I got Wind Waker thanks to my sister, actually. We found a used version of the game. It had like one of those like yellow used tags on it that you find at GameStop, and because my Luigi's Mansion copy that I was buying from them was screwed up, and they claimed that it might not work after a few years because of how scratched up it is, which, by the way, it never did. It's actually perfect to this day. So I literally got a free game alongside my Luigi's Mansion copy because it was scratched up. So they said, pick out a used title over there. And my sister found Wind Waker, and she's like, didn't you want this game a long time ago? And I was like, oh yeah, I did. And don't know why I completely forgot about it. I'm sure there's like a whole backstory behind why I lost interest in it. But I played it, and it became my all-time favorite game until, of course, Twilight Princess came around. And the great thing about that was because I was playing Wind Waker and loving it and loved the art style too, but I always had that thought in the back of my head of how cool would it be to have an experience like this, but with a slightly darker art style with more realistic character. It is absolutely one of the most magical elements of the Zelda franchise, of the fact that you have such a unique selection of games that all look so distinct from each other. That hasn't really been the case lately for the Breath of the Wild era, though, and it's one of the bigger criticisms that people have had of this particular era of Zelda, is that there's this somewhat fear of moving on. We have the first game, Breath of the Wild, which was introduced all the way back in 2014, back when it was known as Zelda Wii U, and ever since then, literally like up to like the current year, at least technically, to the current year because of age of imprisonment, we've had this same art style for that long. And again, not just in terms of the two mainline games, Breath of the Wild and its direct sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, but also in terms of its two spin-offs, So we've had technically 4 games plus a pretty, hefty DLC with this art style. And so naturally, everyone is considering, with a brand new system, the Switch 2 out and about, that this is the perfect opportunity for them to change up the art direction, specifically also because the movie is coming out, which once again could potentially influence the way the games are handled. And one of those ways could be a far more realistic art style, like maybe even the most photorealistic art direction that we've ever had for the Zelda series. I want to save that for a different discussion, a completely separate discussion on how the Zelda movie and the spin-offs could change the Zelda series moving forward. But today I just specifically want to focus in on art direction. And in my personal opinion, due to the rumors and potential leaks that have been spread by a very credible leaker, he's been correct, specifically for Nintendo titles in the past. So this has a lot of potential to be real. I'm going to pretend that it's real moving forward just for the sake of simplicity. So let's just pretend that these rumors are 100% correct, and that the first thing that he claimed in these rumors were that the art direction, or not necessarily the art direction, but the game would be using it would be built on the same engine as the Breath of the Wild games that they've been using for, the last couple of years. But it would have some improvements, specifically said some improvements. Now, to me, This does not mean that the art style will be the same. As many people have already pointed out, the Zelda team used the same engine for both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, which are the most like contrasting art directions that they've pretty much ever done, and yet they did not require a brand new engine to make Twilight Princess look the way it did compared to Wind Waker's more cartoony graphics. So just because it says it's using the same engine does not mean same art style. However, the wording does make it sound like it will in fact be the same art direction. I feel like if this person had truly witnessed or discovered these leaks, he would have tried to sell them more and make them sound more like exemplary, I guess you could say, by saying something like it's the same engine but a whole new art style, like it's like a far more realistic art style, it looks a lot more like the upcoming movie or something like that. Like I feel like he would use that kind of wording and that more to you know, create more excitement and buzz around the rumors than just same engine with some improvements. Like some, I think versions of the quote even said like mild improvements or something like that. Either way, it doesn't sound that exemplary. It doesn't sound like that dramatic of a shift in art direction. It just sounds like it's going to look like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but with Switch 2 improvements, right? So that's what I'm getting from this. Like I said, these rumors could potentially be completely incorrect, but if we're going to believe them for the sake of this video, the wording definitely makes it sound like it's going to be the same art style. So the big question is for me is this a problem personally? Clearly, it seems to be an issue for a lot of fans because they are at this point kind of sick and tired of this art, this art style that we've had for so long, and feel like by not changing it proves once again that they are in a state of stagnation. You know, like they don't want to move on, they don't want to be risky. However, for me personally, I have to say this doesn't bother me nearly as much as it initially did, because here's the thing: when it comes to being a Zelda fan, especially around this particular time frame where rumors are starting to spread about the next game, and it's been a good while since the last mainline game, so you know a reveal is imminent for the next mainline title. It's incredibly exciting, yes, but at the same time equally just terrifying, because you never know when that mainline Zelda game is going to come around with an art style that does not appeal to you. And I've been very lucky as a Zelda fan to have enjoyed practically every single major Zelda game's art style. Some of them took a little bit more time for me to get used to than others, but eventually I came around to loving all of them. But like I said, you never know. Like this could be the one where they choose a super weird, goofy art direction that just make Link and Zelda look like weirdos, and Ganondorf look like just some nasty pig again, just like the old games. You just don't know. You never know what's going on in Nintendo's heads. You never know what they might be planning to try to make the game feel more distinct. And if they want to make it look and feel more distinct via its visuals and go for an art direction that's just horrendous for certain people like me, that's like the first step. It's like the first gate you have to open in order to be able to appreciate a video game, in my opinion, is the art direction, the aesthetic. And if the aesthetic is not appealing to me, especially for a mainline Zelda, it's like my mind is immediately going to have a deep sigh followed by a, well, I guess there's always the next Zelda game. And that's just, I don't think I can handle that. My soul can't take it. I'll go into a depressive coma and wake up being like just trying to convince myself that it was just a bad dream. I'm being dramatic, I understand that, but art direction is important to me. I love these characters, I love this universe, and I always think that Link himself looks awesome, and who I play as is very important to me. And if he looks completely unrecognizable, or just like they just go for like a sort of like goofy, like almost Looney Tunes art style again, like I wouldn't put it past them. Nintendo have like attempted some pretty crazy stuff in the past, and if art direction is the first point of entry of like how I can appreciate a Zelda game, and if it's not to my liking, I'm not so certain how excited I can be about everything else about the game, like obviously, because it's just the first element of a game is its looks, and I'm obviously not talking about graphical fidelity. I don't care how advanced the graphics are, I just care about the art direction. And if it looks weird and I don't like the way it looks, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to enjoy everything else that's great about Zelda, So with that being said, am I upset at the idea that these rumors are true and that the game will be essentially like a third installment to the Breath of the Wild era, except maybe it'll be like hundreds of years later, so it'll be the same art style, and Link and Zelda and all of them will look the same for the most part, but maybe like different hairstyles or whatever. but it'll be like hundreds of years later, sort of like Phantom Hourglass to Spirit Tracks, you know, both looked exactly the same, but it was technically a new Link and Zelda, basically reincarnated or whatever, after hundreds of years. They could do something like that to keep the whole in the same era thing not true, right? So that way they can put it into a completely new world, or just change Hyrule completely to the point where it's no longer like this post-apocalyptic era. I'm sure people will be much happier with that, but obviously there is the issue of the art direction still being the same. Thankfully for me, I love this art style. I think it's one of the best art styles they've ever created. I have my problems with it, don't get me wrong, but hopefully these some improvements that he mentioned will fix those minor issues that I have with the overall art direction. So a vastly improved or even like mildly improved version of the Breath of the Wild art style is totally fine with me, because I love it. And truthfully, like, and again, I'm being like, I understand that I'm like probably going against a large chunk of the fan base by saying this, but I am genuinely terrified at the idea of moving past this art style. And that of course means that I'm taking the safer, like less risky road, and that's always considered the negative road. You should always, you know, inspire and encourage new directions and in this case, a new art style, to prove that the series is not stagnant. But I think that there are so many other ways that you can, evolve a franchise beyond changing the art style. Changing the art style might be a basically like a sign, it's a message to the fan base saying, hey, just look at how different this game looks. And so that is an example, like a visual reminder that this game is going to be vastly different from anything that you've played before. But that's not scary. It's not necessary. It's not essential for the game to be something brand new. If these leaks are to go by, or anything to go by, we know that the like sort of core mechanic definitely sounds like something that could be very revolutionary, and I'll talk about that in my next video. But for right now, I just want to focus on that. I think that art direction is very important for Zelda games, but I can't help but be scared to see what it might look like. And, you know, I would honestly, in this case, prefer to just stay in the comfort zone, I guess you could say, because this art style is my comfort place right now. It's my, I know I like it, I know I love it actually, and especially like the character designs. I love, this is like one of my favorite designs for Link ever, as well as Zelda. Ganondorf looks awesome. All the major characters that are that, you know, come back for every Zelda game look fantastic. And while once again there are things that I'd like them to change about it, overall I would prefer they just keep this art style instead of taking the massive risk of giving me one that is distasteful, you know? So I'm probably in the minority in saying that, but at the same time I feel like maybe I'm not, you know? I feel like a lot of people also feel that way about Zelda games, where you're never quite certain if what you're going to get next time around is going to be appealing to you. So, you know, at the risk of just completely, you know, repeating myself, I think you get the gist. I just hope that if it is a new art style, and these rumors are not particularly accurate, that it will be cool looking. Like, honestly, like if they want to still play it somewhat safe, but still change it up in a manner that would be exciting for people, is to reuse an art style before Breath of the Wild, like a super popular one, aka Twilight Princess. If this next Zelda game, by some miracle, was like a Twilight Princess sequel after nearly 20 years, I'd lose my mind. And even if it's not a direct sequel, if they just used Twilight Princess as like as a starting point, you know, and built off of it from there, and like made it look like maybe even the tech demo from the Zelda Wii U one where he's battling the spider and everything like that, that would be fantastic too. And I think that it would be appropriate, once again, considering that the Zelda movie is coming out, and the fact that Nintendo chose to go live action as opposed to animation, I think is very telling about how they see the series outside of the video game playfield. You know, like they're like seeing, like, this is how they imagine the universe when it's in like another form of media, is live action, actual people, actual actors portraying these characters. So if that's the case, who's to say that they won't, you know, use that as a manner of, you know, evolving the franchise and making it look potentially more mature and more realistic in the future. So that's my thoughts on the art direction. I hope that if this is going to be a brand new art direction, that it's appealing to me and that to everyone else, and that it's a fresh start, which is obviously what I definitely want, especially with it being the first game on Switch 2. But at the same time, if these rumors are true and the engine is the same and it's only just some improvements here and there graphically, but not art-wise, I won't be personally upset. I will actually be somewhat relieved. But we'll see. This is likely still a good year away before we even get a reveal of it. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll tease it this year, and then movie comes out next year, and then they re-reveal it properly with gameplay and a release date sometime in 2028. So we'll see. We will definitely see. I just hope that what I see is not going to disappoint.